Hello and welcome. My name is Lindsay Barton and I am a program manager at Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement is a nonprofit organization that inspires and prepares young people to succeed in a global economy. And we do that by offering programs that teach students about work and career readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. Today, I'm here to talk to you about one of our programs called JA It's My Job. This program teaches you about key interpersonal skills that are necessary to succeed in the workplace, such as introducing yourself to coworkers, acting and speaking in a professional way, and active listening. I will be discussing workplace writing today. In this session, you will learn how to communicate through work-related writing. There will be a variety of activities throughout this session, so let's get started. Now, you might be thinking you'll never have a job that includes extensive writing like ad copy or social media posts, business blogs, commercial scripts, and other types of business writing. But no matter what job you have, chances are your job will include at least a little bit of writing. Take, for example, being a preschool teacher. The kind of writing that you might have to do include writing notes to parents, or keeping up with school records such as attendance or behavior records, or maybe sending emails about schedules and school events. You're used to certain kinds of writing, like texting and emails with friends and family, or maybe writing a report for school. But when you're on the job, you'll need to think about writing a little differently. Professional writing must be clean, error-free, and directed to the right audience. Communicating at work isn't like communicating with friends. You have to be professional, and any mistakes distract from what you're saying. Let's move on to our first activity called the basics. And please take out your handout labeled Writing Basics and we'll get started. In the workplace, the way you dress, talk, or even use your body language can affect your ability to succeed. The same is true with the way you write. Poor writing can cause you to lose the trust of your coworkers. When you communicate on the job through writing, you need to be careful to use proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation. How do you think your supervisor might feel if you sent an email that had typos, poor grammar, or incorrect punctuation? Professional writing is very different from casual writing. Some examples of casual writing are text messages you might send to your friends or family members that you wouldn't use when writing to a boss or coworkers, like using emojis or letters and abbreviations to replace full words such as Y for yes, or maybe THX for thanks. You might have the lack of punctuation, including periods at the end of sentences, and you might ignore misspellings. Using informal language in writing for work can make a worker look unprofessional. You have spent years in school learning and practicing spelling, grammar, and punctuation, but years of texting may have blurred some of those lessons and led to some bad habits. Let's do a quick refresher on those key areas. So take a look at your handout, Writing Basics, and look at the first item. You have an after-school job. You just found out that tomorrow there will be a mandatory assembly that will make you 30 minutes late to work. Under company policy, you need to text your supervisor to inform him you will be late and that you have arranged for Celia to cover your shift until you get there. The text as written on the handout might be something you would send to a friend, but is not appropriate for the workplace. Some problems with the original text are it didn't address the supervisor properly and by name. It didn't use correct capitalization, punctuation, or complete sentences. Now, if you were to rewrite the text to sound more professional, you might write something like this. Mr. Lopez, I'm sorry, but I can't be in until 4:15 tomorrow. I've arranged for Celia to cover for me. I'll be there as quickly as I can. Now it's your turn to rewrite the messages for the remaining scenarios. Please give yourself about 5 to 10 minutes to complete this activity. Let's get started with our next activity called Clarity and Style. Please take out your handout, and shortly you will have an opportunity to craft an email. Business writing used to be very different. Before email, we had something called memos. Memos were typed up and delivered by mail or in person. If they were going to more than one person, copies had to be made. If you got a memo, you had to keep it handy to refer to if it was important, or file it away, or toss it. If you tossed it, you could never find it again. Now, thankfully, we have email. Email allows us to easily track the date and time sent of messages. We can easily find old emails, instantly distribute messages, and forward messages. But there's also the chance of errors in sending to the wrong person and an increased likelihood of writing poorly. It's important to know that an email you send today can be stored for years to come, as well as forwarded all the way up to the president of the company. You never know where an email is going to end up, so you want to be sure that whatever you send is clear and accurate. So now I want to direct you to the Clarity and Style handout. Shortly, you will put the tips for professional writing into practice. But first, review the tips for any professional writing. Then, in the Translate the Message section of the handout, you will need to write an email to a client explaining the progress of the software testing. Read the email from the software technicians. Determine why you would not want to forward the message to the client. Finally, translate the information from the technicians into an appropriate email for the client. Please take about 7 minutes to complete the handout. Now on to our final activity called Get to the Point. So please take out your handout and let's get started. Did you know that more than 250 billion emails are sent every year? And it's estimated that that number will surpass 300 billion by 2021. The typical worker gets more than 120 emails a day and sends 40. So when you write for work, you should get to the point as quickly as possible. Because of information overload, workers should strive to keep the information they share as concise and well organized as possible. The goal of workplace communication generally should be to share the most important information to help in decision making. Also keep in mind that when writing for business, you'll need to organize your writing so that the most important information is towards the front. A common way to organize information is with bullet points. In business writing, your goal is to make information as digestible as possible. You don't want to confuse your reader with long sentences and poor organization. Keep it tight and focused on the main point. Now please direct yourself to the Get to the Point handout and review the instructions. You will need to draft an email to your manager explaining the holiday sales. Review the email, determine the main point, and reorganize and rewrite it. Now please take about 10 to 12 minutes to complete the activity. Now it's time for a wrap-up. Remember that it's important to write professionally in the workplace. Employers will judge you by your writing, even if it's not the main function of your job. Remember to double-check anything that you're writing in the workplace. A typo could come back to haunt you. That wraps up our session. Thank you for joining me.